Good. I think we can start. As people find their seats. Good afternoon and welcome to those joining us for the second half of the day. To those who have been here since this morning, I very much hope you found the sessions to be insightful. I'm Tom West, Chief Executive at PLS, and I'm delighted that you are here for what is becoming, I think, an increasingly important date in the publishing calendar. This is our third annual full-day conference, and each year has reinforced our belief that an event like this, one that focuses squarely and proudly on the importance of copyright, is becoming more and more relevant and necessary. This past year, perhaps more than any other in our 44-year history, has shown us just how central copyright and licensing are to the future of publishing and our creative industries. But perhaps most encouraging has been the united response from our sector this year, a clear and coordinated message from the creative industries that contribute over £100 billion to the UK economy each year, that we will not accept being sacrificed in the name of tech disruption. For a government so focused on economic growth and stability, one hopes at this point, made so powerfully and so eloquently by Baroness Kudrin in the House of Lords over the past several months, and through industry responses to the government's consultation on AI and copyright, will be properly heard in the final reckoning. That can often feel, for those of us working in this niche, and no doubt many in this theatre, that we are just talking to ourselves in an AI and copyright-obsessed echo chamber. But there are signs that we are finally starting to break through into the mainstream conversation. The fact that these issues were brought quite literally to the front pages with blanket coverage on newsstands across the country of the Make It Fair banner earlier this year, not to mention the repeated warnings from leading figures in the music industry, does, I hope, mean that we are breaking through in the public consciousness. So an important, one might say, pivotal year for copyright and for those that understand its importance. 2 years ago, when we were considering the programme for what was then our second all-day conference, we wondered whether the 24-hour news cycle might soon give way, mercifully perhaps, to other concerns, and that we should consider broadening the scope for the following year. But clearly the opposite has happened. The topic has only become more urgent, more central to everything that we do. So this year we've renewed our focus, and this afternoon's themed programme certainly reflects that. We've got a fantastic lineup for you this afternoon with some very clued up speakers, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing their take on what are certainly some most interesting times. And with that, I'm delighted to introduce our first session of the afternoon, Behind the Scenes, Careers and Challenges in Rights Management. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you enjoy.
Right, welcome everyone. I hope you enjoyed the morning, had a good lunch. I'm Jessica Rutt, I'm Head of Rights and Licensing at RCNI, which is the publishing arm of the Royal College of Nursing. I'm happy to report that we're actually going to be talking about something other than AI for this session, so we all get a little break from it. We're going to be talking about careers in rights. Now, we all know that working in rights is great. It's varied, interesting, and you get to be part of this great community. A wise boss once told me that all aspects of publishing lead back to rights. It's essential for the ecosystem. But from what I can tell, not many of us dreamed about working in rights when we were kids. So, how did we end up here, and how's it going? We've got a really talented panel here to talk about their careers in rights and licensing today. So I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves, starting with my co-chair, Claire.
Hi everybody, thanks for being here. So my name's Claire Harper and I am Associate Director for Global Rights and Licensing at Sage, and I'm co-chair of the PLS Rights Group along with Jessica, and I'm going to pass over to Bleu.
Hiya, I'm Bleu Simpson. I've been working in rights for 3 years. I'm the rights sales executive at Kogan Page, and before that I was a rights assistant with RightsZone, and I handle subsidiary rights sales of our content.
Hello everyone, I'm Sharon Mattern-Budeker, and it's a pleasure to be here today. For the past 9 years, I've been at Research Solutions, where I develop publisher-supported products and curate relationships that drive growth and promote copyright-compliant research dissemination. Currently, I'm the VP of Publisher Relations and Content Strategy. Before starting at Research Solutions, I spent nearly 2 decades at Karger Publishers in Basel, Switzerland, where I developed the foundation for their post-publication channel distribution network.
Hi, I'm Julie Halfaker, and I'm the Head of Rights Licensing and Permissions at BMJ. I have worked in publishing for 30 years. The last 17 to 18 years have been in rights and licensing. So I'm responsible for all of the content licensing from permissions through to some of the bigger agreements.
Thank you. Well, we're so thrilled that you all agreed to be on the panel, so thank you so much. I just wondered if we could share a bit about how you got your start in rights, how did you get into rights, and how your career kind of developed. Who wants to take the first question?
I can do that. So, yes, I didn't, when I was a 10-year-old, I didn't know I wanted to be in rights and licensing. So I had worked in business-to-business publishing previously in marketing, and then worked for BMJ. I didn't say I worked for BMJ, but I worked for BMJ in a marketing role. And then there was an opportunity to move across, and I see my old manager here to work in, I guess it was a rights and licensing role in local editions, dealing with our many editions in different countries, and that was a really exciting role. And from that, mainly out of curiosity, I started to wonder, what some money's coming in from this collective licensing, what's that? And it was an area, and permissions and all these licensing areas were handled by lots of different people, a bit randomly in our organisation. So really, I think it was just trying to pull all that together and just being interested in all of that. So that's how I got in, very completely by accident. But I do think it's the nicest area of publishing, having worked in marketing and knowing what everyone else does. It is the best.
Well, I think I'll follow that up with you, Julie. As with many, I also arrived quite by accident in publishing. Originally, I'm from Chicago, and I have a bachelor's degree in marketing with a minor in German, which I earned at Creighton University, which is basically in the cornfields of Nebraska. Not the most ideal place to learn German, but that's where it happened. And then I went on to work in marketing departments. I was selling everything from language to clothing to pizza to dental equipment. And then fast forward about 8 years when I'm living in Basel, and a friend of mine asked me to review some licensing agreements that were in English for his boss because he had just returned home from the Frankfurt Book Fair. And that was in 1998, which, as it turned out, was pretty close, the hypocenter of the online publishing proliferation at that point. So I joined the industry at a very key point. And it was supposed to be this reading through contracts. It was supposed to be a one-person, 2-week job, and it turned into a full-time job that turned into a fully staffed office and 18-year career in business development at that publishing house. So it really just, as my knowledge grew, so did the industry and our company's participation in online publishing. I kind of hit it right at the right spot when I joined publishing.
So I came into publishing with intention. I did an MA in publishing, but it didn't quite go straight to plan. So I graduated just as COVID started. So I went back and worked in hospitality, which is primarily my background, and worked for a few years and then picked up some skills here and there. Worked as a tutor in a bookshop, managed a restaurant, and then went and did a yoga teacher training. So it was all a bit skills picking up until I messaged one of my old lecturers and said, I never got to do volunteering at London Book Fair. Can I now, a couple of years later, do that? And that's where I met Ruth of RightsZone, who was looking for some help, and the rest is history, really. That's how I fell into rights. I think traditionally you probably don't expect to work in rights, but I think I got very lucky with meeting Ruth and Claire at RightsZone to then kind of lead on to working with Kogan Page in rights, and I definitely don't think I'll be leaving anytime soon.
I'm sure Amy's really happy too.
That's great. Thanks, ladies. I just wanted to have a little bit more of a think about your jobs now, or maybe Sharon, a little bit about your previous role. We know that the rights people sit in all different parts of the company, so you could be in legal. I was actually marketing, doing rights and licensing, sales, obviously all of that. Could you talk a little bit about where your role sits in the business and who you report to, who the main other colleagues that you work with? Does anyone want to?
Sure, I can start.
First, yeah.
Mine is an upper management position with a decision-making authority and an advisory role to the executive team.
So at BMJ, rights has moved around a bit, was in the marketing team, was in the publishing editorial team, and currently now in the commercial team, because a lot of our, obviously we're keeping in mind like the ethical use of rights and the legal use of rights. We're also really commercialising our content, and it is concentrating on the revenue earning part of it as well. So that's where we sit.
I'm fortunate at Kogan Page because we're very central, we're very involved with all the other departments, but we are directly in the sales team. So we work with the sales team.
Great, thank you. And Sharon, I wonder if you could talk a bit about, because you did like a sideways move into an intermediary, how easy was that? How was the transition?
For me, it was a bit like, if you can visualize, jumping onto a log that's going down a pretty fast-moving river. I mean, I had been at my publishing house for 18 years, and they were really like a Swiss family to me. But I thought, okay, given the stage in my career, either I stay for another 18 years and retire here, or I make the move, jump on that log, and do something different. So I decided to jump. And once I got my balance, I mean, I really enjoy the intermediary space. But it's a bit like, well, when I did my jump, it was 2017. And that's also when the tectonics of the publishing landscape started to shift a little bit more. Traditionally, in the publisher role, people always just came to me with business ideas and wanted to do business with us. They wanted our content. So it was a very comfortable situation. But moving into the intermediary space, you have to kind of look at publishing as like a giant equation, and you have to make sure that both sides all equal out. And I found that to be an interesting aspect. And as the industry started to change, and perhaps publishers weren't necessarily more, in the top-down position anymore. We were starting to perform more like a network. So I thought, moving into an intermediary role, it would enable me to find commonalities between the different stakeholders, and for me it was an ideal opportunity to expand my knowledge of the industry, get to know new people in different sectors, and then all of my publisher friends became my customers, so that was also kind of fun too. So, but it was a big jump, but I'm really glad that I made that move.
Well, the intermediaries are playing such a vital role in this rights space, aren't they? It's really, partnerships are so important. I'm going to move us on a bit, and I'd like us all to have a think about, and maybe talk a little bit about both the challenges that you faced throughout your careers in rights, and then on the flip side, like what has been the most rewarding parts of this. Is there anyone that wants to go first, or do you want me to?
I can start.
Yeah?
I would say for me, definitely getting in. I think we all know that publishing is a sacred space. It's quite hard to break into. But yeah, once I was in, it's lovely. I really enjoy the people, and that for me is my flip side of the rewarding part. I've met already so early on in my career some really great connections and really lovely people that I hope to carry out through my career.
So there are a few challenges. One of them is sometimes everything's the same, then it becomes very fast moving. some of the legal challenges and changes. We're talking today all about AI, but what I found is really helpful in navigating is building relationships with people and attending events like this, talking to people, finding out that they're experiencing the same as you. On the legal side, it's really difficult keeping up with what's happening in the EU, what's happening in UK, USA. But things like the ALPS groups are fantastic for finding out information. You've got people like Sarah and Leslie who are a mine of information and really good at sharing. The SDM groups have been really helpful, and also, you know, these kind of things. And there's a lot of newsletters out there that I'm always reading, not always understanding, but generally there is someone that you can talk to at these events who does understand more and can help you. So that's been really good challenge, and then a bit of a solution. The other thing is, and I think it's been talked about before, is raising the profile of rights and licensing within your organisation. Because sometimes in my organisation, there are two of us, and it's just making sure that that we have contacts with everyone in every department: technology, production, editorial, sales, but making sure that everyone knows about us and they know the rules and what they do, especially if they're using other people's content as well. So we have a bit of responsibility that way. But that's also rewarding, building relationships internally that way.
And for me, one challenge that crops up from time to time, even today, is getting through to individuals who don't understand the true nature of publishing as a means to, let's say, further disseminate original published research to a targeted and expanding audience. They sort of have what I call like a goalie mindset, and they prevent content from being obtained. And I always do my level best to convince those individuals to become more like gatekeepers and ensuring them that we do have the same objective, which is to deliver content to their target audience while respecting the copyright and advancing scientific breakthroughs. So that's, to me, is always, I mean, generally speaking, everyone understands that, but if your particular contact person doesn't understand that, you have to take some time to convince and build the relationship so they understand that we're actually working towards the same goal. So those one of the challenges. And the flip side, the most rewarding part of my career, obviously, aside from all of the wonderful business relationships that I've forged throughout the years, if I'm being completely honest, the biggest prize for me has been to show my two daughters, who are 19 and 22, that you can have a career and a family. If young people don't see a path, they don't believe there is a path. And of course, they can create their own lives and envision, you know, however they want to live their lives. But I'm happy to show them that you can have multiple interests and you can do them all justice for the most part, that it's indeed possible. So that's been the most rewarding part for me.
That's very inspiring. I just wanted to pick up on Julie's point about, you know, advocating internally for rights, and I think that's a really important part. I've been in many situations in my life where decisions have been made around the company that affect our department, and we haven't been involved in the conversation, and we find out when it's too late. Like, systems have been shut down, and we actually used that and no one knew about it. So I think that is a huge challenge that we all experience in a rights world.
Discontinuing a journal, but only looking at the sales figures and forgetting about the big dip you're about to take in licensing revenue as well. It's very frustrating. I was also thinking a bit about, I think everybody will be able to relate to this, working in licensing, you're sometimes working with partners and working on initiatives that are like slightly in competition with your own core business. So this has been, I feel like, a lifelong challenge for me, trying to balance primary sales and licensing revenue and make sure they complement each other and that you're doing the best overall for the company. I have this mantra that quite a few of you probably heard me say before, which is that if there's no channel conflict at all, then you're all missing customers and you're missing people who should be interacting with your content. But it is about getting the balance. And I think where that works successfully at companies is where there is a really good dialogue amongst sales, licensing, marketing, editorial, like everybody's got to be in the conversation together.
I think the phrase "there's no evidence of attrition" is going to be like printed on my tombstone because I say it so often.
Yeah.
People are sick of hearing it. Thank you. So we kind of talked a bit about challenges you face, but what about industry challenges and the things that have changed and evolved in the time that you've worked in rights?
Well, even a lot of it is communicating things internally and externally. Internally, things like Creative Commons licenses, and explaining them to reprint salespeople and why they can't sell a CCPY license article. So a lot of them are digesting what's going on and then feeding it to people. And at the moment it's AI challenges. There's always challenges, a lot of them around expectations of revenue and trying to meet that as we become more commercial. But what always helps is having the relationships. We did have when I first started working on my own, there was no one to talk to about, and I don't know if we had this kind of meeting. So I reached out to Jessica and to Sylvia because I had questions, and I found out that there were these other people who did the same job. And from that, we actually then met with Jen Holton, who was from Wiley, and we reached out to Sharon, who was at Kaga. And then all of a sudden, we had lots of other people who were working in STM publishing, and Claire, that we could talk to about best practice, which was something that was really difficult. We found that we were talking to the same customers, but one person was calling something a spade and someone was calling it a shovel, and the customer didn't know what it was. They wanted something to dig, So I think working together and best practice really helped.
It was such a breakthrough when we set that up. Yeah,
we all felt that we were dealing with things on our own and not understanding or not communicating correctly with customers.
Because it can often just be one or two of you, can't there, at your organisation, unless you're a very big publisher. So you need people to just bounce ideas off and run things past, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, and some industry challenges that I remember, and I may be dating myself, but it was in the late 90s, that problem of persistent linking, and we can all thank the industry-wide high-stakes collaboration that we created at the time, Crossref, that basically eliminated the 4014 error of not finding the piece of content once you've conducted a search. So that was an industry challenge back in the late 90s that all the publishers and other intermediaries joined together to solve an industry-wide problem. And I'm hopeful that we'll be doing the same with artificial intelligence, as long as there's a collaborative, collective idea of how to move forward, that I think we can meet that challenge with confidence, just like we did back in the day with persistent linking. And then going on throughout my career, there always was a new business model that we would have to tackle. It was ebooks, it was persistent author representation, it was discovery services, and every time in the licensing departments you would have to figure out, okay, what are we doing, what's the goal, and how can we accomplish this? So it's just this Gen AI is just another flavor of that, but it's even higher stakes, because I think not to get too overly dramatic, but like the fate of the world is at stake at this point with this. And all the world is watching how we react. So,
but historically, we have been really good at rising to these challenges. Look at PLS and CLA. That's what they've always helped us do. I've been on working groups for text and data mining model licenses. We threw everything at that to try and avoid a copyright exception, to show that it was a functioning ecosystem. So I think that we can do it, but people need to get their heads together to do that.
Yeah, the industry has always come together in that way, hasn't it? And it's always been lovely to see that. And I think, this will just be an example of the same thing. We'll be able to all work together and come up with a solution eventually.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to say about what's going on? No. Let's talk about some skills then that we have in Rights Careers. So, are there skills that you think lend really well to working in rights? maybe if you've got any good training resources that you've done or resources online, that kind of thing. I'm just going to start this off by saying that when I used to interview people for like permissions assistant jobs, they'd come to me and every single person would say, oh, you know, I'm just passionate about reading. I just love books. And I was like, great, me too, but what's your Excel like? Can you do a maths test, basically? And yeah, obviously, you know, loving books is fantastic. It is key, but there's so much more to this world. It's a real balancing act between, you know, as we've discussed, like finance, policy, editorial, you know, commercial decisions, all of that. So what do you think? Does anybody want to go first, or?
I mean, I've not hired people, so I can only go off what I'm hoping is good. But I always advocate for hospitality as a really great foundation skill, especially in sales. I think if you're good at hospitality, you're good with people and you've got a lot of patience. So yeah, definitely that is a good skill. I also used the Rights and Licensing Hub a lot when I was kind of applying for jobs and trying to upskill a bit to get into rights, which was really great resource for me.
I think, sorry Sharon, but hospitality is key and customer services.
Yeah.
I used to get, when I was just processing permissions, I used to get so frustrated that people just didn't know what they were doing. I was like, this is so obvious. But then you've got to remember, you're doing like tens, hundreds a day, a week. You're processing them, you know what you're doing. But some people will only ever give, you know, only ever clear permission once. So there's no reason why they would know how to do it. So yeah, you're right, like customer services, hospitality aspect is really important.
You go through a lot as well in hospitality.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I mean, a skill that you really have to have in this type of work is you really do have to love people, because it's the people that you're dealing with. I mean, licenses are merely the framework for the agreed upon rules of engagement that you decide upon. So, and it's the people that govern these rules. So if you need to like people and to be able to communicate effectively so that you can have a framework to collaborate. So I think that's one of a really good focus. And I think it's interesting that you are in hospitality, we both studied marketing. I think there's communicative disciplines. And another thing that I think that's really helpful, which I did not have when I entered, I had to just sort of acquire it, is to have a full picture of the publishing process, from manuscript submission, peer review, publication, and then like post-publication dissemination. I mean, I do not know how to copy, edit a manuscript or anything like that, but I know the different steps of the process, generally speaking, because you're going to need to know how the licenses that you negotiate affect those stages of the publishing cycle. So it just gives you more confidence to read through contracts and negotiate terms, knowing how it affects like the various departments within your publishing house.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it's really important to understand the whole process and what everyone does. I got involved in discovery and then had to learn a lot more about metadata than I ever wanted to know, but just so I could communicate with my colleague. So yeah, that's really good communication, relationship building, but also I think you're kind of expected to be someone who looks at the big picture, but also the detail. You're horizon scanning, but then you're going through contracts, looking at every word, and you're looking at spreadsheets and looking at all the figures and reporting. So that it's a bit of a balance between both. We have people in our company who are like, they don't want to know the detail at all. I like to know the detail, but we're then asked, oh, what's happening with AI? What do you think that? You know, there are lots of resources. I mentioned all the resources with ALPS and STM and CLA and each other. But yeah, the relationship skills, communication, hospitality is brilliant.
And another thing I'd like to add is to think of the possibilities and not the problems. I mean, don't be afraid to float, you know, what might sound like a really crazy idea. I mean, because if it's a win-win and it's copyright compliant, you know, you should might as well consider it. I mean, don't be afraid to really think of something that, hey, have we all considered this, or this might be a good idea. As long as it's everyone benefits from it and it's a copyright compliant scenario, you could try it.
Yeah, you can be creative in your ideas and your thinking. I mean, in my company, it's sort of small enough that you can be. And
I think I'm coming back to Sharon's point about the publishing process. So I started my career in editorial, and that was so helpful for me when I made the sideways move, because I had all this knowledge already about the licenses the authors sign versus you know what we're licensing out. So definitely having knowledge of the full publishing process is valuable.
it's so valuable. And also, you mentioned about patience and understanding as well, because you might be dealing with, your team might be dealing with authors. So you need to know what they've gone through. They're asking something about some content that someone has infringed or used, or that they want to use, and you need to understand what they, what they're allowed to do, what they're not, what other people can do, and the process that they've been through to the pharma company, maybe that wants to use the content.
And I think in terms of like training resources, I remember when I first started in Rights, I actually did an ALPS course on understanding copyright, and that was really great because I kind of got the fundamentals of how copyright works. And I think ALPS has so many great courses out there that you can do, and I'm always sending them out to my team saying, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah, and I think now, I mean, I started a long time ago, but now if I was just starting, I'd reach out to people that I've chatted to here on LinkedIn and maybe connect with people that you want to know more about what they're doing. Because I think people in rights and licensing and publishers are always very happy to talk about what obviously without any sensitive information, talk about what they do and how to work in it, how to get work in a different company or different area. I moved from marketing to rights and licensing, so you can actually move to other areas.
I think this might be a good opportunity to plug our PLS rights group as well, actually. Come and talk to Claire or I afterwards if you're interested in finding out more about it. We meet about 4 times a year, but we talk about lots of current big issues, but also like loads of really practical stuff that might be helpful, and we always want to hear new voices, so that would be really good.
Yeah, and we have lots of useful articles on the Rights and Licensing Hub, which you mentioned. So our group actually works on everything on that site. So yeah, it's a great resource if you're looking to get into rights.
Where are we?
This one. Yeah. So thinking ahead, how do you see rights evolving in the next few years? Where do you think your roles are going to end up?
Shall I go?
Have you got a crystal ball?
Well, I'm looking into my crystal ball. It seems to have become, rather than being sort of transactional, more of a sort of business development kind of roles, and especially now we're all looking at AI and can we do, what can we do, and who wants to work with us, and who do we want to work with. So I think it's changed a bit more, and which is quite good for us actually, that we can use some of these skills that we say that we've got.
It's very varied, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it. No 2 days are really the same, which is really good.
I think rights is always going to be a thing, though. There's always going to be a need for a rights team. I hope.
Hopefully.
But what advice would you give to somebody who's starting their career today?
I would say know AI and know how AI policy is applied within your publishing house. And if you don't have a policy yet, I strongly urge that you join that policy group, because when I was at Carger, we didn't have a social media plan, so we created a social media working group and developed a policy. When open access was, I guess in 2000, 2006, 2004, that was a big thing. Then we had to develop a team to tackle open access. So if you're on one of the working groups or founding departments of that, as you learn about the discipline, whatever it is, your knowledge will grow, and you can help to form company policy in that. And so it'll really be beneficial to you later so that you've been able to work to help form that policy. So I think AI is definitely going to be one of those foundational disciplines that will drive future behavior within our industry. So that's definitely what I would recommend.
Linking back a little bit to the other question as well, I kind of feel maybe that in this automated digital world we might see a bit more of a return to connection a little bit, and we might crave that community and meeting people in real life again. So I would say probably on that, connecting, meeting people, going to events, that for me was really big when I was getting into the role. So.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for networking and how valuable that can be, and the off-the-cuff discussions you have over coffee or we learn a lot that way.
Rights people are very good at that.
We do.
The only other advice I've got is if you're applying for jobs and you're using AI, just remember to remove the prompts from your cover letter, because I had one recently. That was an immediate rejection because they left the prompt in. Can you rewrite this a bit more professionally, please? No.
I mean, please proofread your cover letters anyway, and CVs. It's crazy how many come through with mistakes, and I'm always like, yeah, we are a publishing company. Like this detail is, and getting this stuff right is important. So yeah.
Any more advice for new people? No. Well, Bleu, so you're fairly new to the rights world. What's your ambitions for your career? Putting you on the spot here.
That is a big question.
Amy's in the audience.
$1 million question. I feel like rights is so broad, and at the moment it's getting a lot of recognition. Copyright is cool at the moment, and I think that's a really exciting time to be in rights. And I definitely, as I said before, I feel very lucky that I came into rights so early on in my career, and I'm excited to grow and develop with all these developments. So definitely won't be leaving rights.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Once you're in, you're never going
Good
back.
answer. Yeah. How are we for time? I guess maybe we can push on.
Yeah,
We'll do this. So this is just our last question for the panel, and then after this we're going to open up for some nice questions, please. So this is just a just a fun question. We asked the panel to have a think about if they've got any anecdotes about like fun things that have happened during their careers in rights, interesting permissions requests perhaps, or good trips they've been on and that kind of thing. I think Claire's going to start us off here. So.
Yeah, so I had a couple of examples where specifically permissions requests, I had people asking if they could use a nature cover as their wallpaper in their house, and I just thought, why are you asking me that? No one's going to see it. But I see a picture. Yeah, send us a picture once it's done, because that would be very interesting. But also amazing things like TV requests. We had, I think it was the film about Stephen Hawking, The Theory of Everything. They used a cover in that, and it's so fun to see where the work gets to and how people are using it. But yeah, those were the things that immediately sprung to my mind.
I also granted permission for a nature cover to be on a cake. I was on a big iced celebration cake once. I asked them to send me a picture so I could just see how it looked. It was too late at that point, but does anyone have any others?
Well, I've seen a BMJ cover cake, but they didn't get permission. It was in our office. So I have some, they're pretty funny enough, the permission requests, there might be high value ones, but the ones that people at BMJ are really interested in is when they're on TV. And if it's something that's fun. Yeah, they're very interested in that. So we had a permission from a TV programme that was going to be made in Sri Lanka. They wanted to use the BMJ, and we granted permission. But of course, we didn't know what it was. And when it came out, it was the Good Karma Hospital. And we were so excited that we've got to watch the first episode. And it was the doctor was working in the NHS and they were completely fed up because they had such an awful time and it was so horrible in this country that they were sitting on the toilet reading the BMJ and they saw a job advert and they went for a job in Sri Lanka.
You always need to ask for the context.
Exactly. So imagine our disappointment that we told everyone, BMJ is going, watch the TV, it's going to be on the television. And another TV is when one of our, a gastroenterology title called Gut was going to be used on Have I Got News for You? Oh. So, of course, that was excitement as well, but it was completely ridiculed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The TV always seems to win over anything else that could be influential or earn a lot of money.
I think we've got only a few minutes, so if it's all right with you guys, we might move to questions if there are any. Yeah, got one here.
Andrew from Jellybooks. Question. It seems only like yesterday that most rights people were still using card catalogues to know what books they had and other things. So I'm curious, what is the progress with IT in rights teams and rights in general?
Yeah, I think sadly a lot of us are probably still using some quite antiquated systems. Maybe not cards, but a lot of Excel spreadsheets are probably still knocking about. There is some really good software. I think the implementation is a struggle, but is worth it. I don't know if anyone's got any examples.
Maybe there are more on the books side. We use spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to that advocating internally, though, like trying to get budgets for those kind of systems can be quite challenging when your team isn't really known about internally. So. Yeah, we are still very heavily reliant on Excel.
Actually, for us, we've shoehorned it into Salesforce. It's not an ideal mix. It's not an ideal match, but it's sort of working. Yeah. Any others?
I'm Abigail from Inspired. This is a question perhaps for Sharon, as you were saying that part of your role is that advisory role to the exec. What's your advice to anyone from a rights team to really engage the exec in rights and licensing as a priority and elevate rights and licensing on their agenda? So I think you've all touched upon the idea that rights can be quite a small, headcount-wise, part of the business, but hugely important.
Well, first of all, you have to find your voice. And second of all, you have to find out what the executive team values, what is important to them, and then communicate to them in a language they'll understand. Whether it be with regard to profitability or liability in terms of copyright risk aversion, whatever their currency is, you have to kind of like choose your message according to what you think will be most valuable to them. That's the advice I'd give you there.
Any others? Sarah? Oh, sorry, Sarah, you're next.
Hi, I'm Valentine, the Rights Director at Postwave, and obviously we're talking a lot about AI today. It's a bit of a clickbait question, but how worried should we be about AI replacing us as rights people? And maybe more interestingly, how could we rely on AI to make our jobs easier, more efficient? What do you recommend?
I'm not personally worried about AI taking my job, purely because of that systems question. Like, I don't think the AI can go and find a cupboard somewhere and look at the contract to find the rights. There would be quite a challenge for that. But I believe there are a lot of opportunities in AI to help us in our work. But yeah, does anybody want to?
I think this returns to one of my other mantras, which is like, although we all do it, to just stop calling it AI and break it down into what it is you're actually talking about. So there's obviously some really useful tools that you can use in your day-to-day work. I think that the overall picture is really can be a bit overwhelming. But as soon as you dig in, it's not as frightening.
Yeah, if you think of it, even thinking about something like discovery or that could be AI helping you to find something or assisting you.
Yeah. Just remember,
then maybe that's not so worrying.
Yeah. Just remember.
I'm not worried about my job. Just
I would just say, just always remember to check what it's done. Really do. You just keep checking, and don't rely on it to be completely accurate all the time.
Well, and I'll add to that AI is another aspect to our industry,
Yes.
and what governs what we do. It's the relationships that we have with one another, and it's what we decide, how we decide to interact with one another within the framework of a license, and we're negotiating those licenses. So I think we're fully in control.
Do you think it might help us with things like copyright infringement working out, because that's very hard to identify? Maybe.
I mean, I think there are already tools, aren't there?
Yeah.
Right. I think we'll have Sarah's question, and then we might be out of time.
Yeah, I was going to say that was really interesting talk. Thank you very much. My one question is, particularly for those that have been in the industry for a while, if you could go back and give yourself sort of one piece of advice starting off, what would that be?
Does anyone want to go first?
I'll take notes.
So I think it's really good to embrace any change and opportunity, look at things in a, don't think about the negatives, just embrace and look at the possibilities. And that's worked really well and kept me in. I've moved around to different departments, but kept, an interest and curiosity.
I mean, I'll have to say, I'm a team player. I'm really a team player, but just advice to the young folks out there. If the credit is yours, take it.
Yeah, and I think just take every opportunity that arises. Like, don't be scared. Just jump in with both feet and see where it goes.
I'm not sure if you can choose this, but I would say try and get a good boss. I've been really lucky to have some bosses that have, been passionate about rights and have pushed me forward for opportunities and helped me get where I am today, and are still mentors to me as well. So take advantage of the community. I know you can't always choose a boss, but take advantage of what is there in the community, because there are people. There's people out there that can help you. Yeah.
Well, I think, we're probably out of time now, but thank you so much to our panellists for joining us, and thank you all for listening to us whittle on about our jobs. Just to let you know, so in this room next is going to be AI, the threats and opportunities for publishers, and then across the hall we've got AI litigation, insights and lessons learned so far. So go find your next session, and thank you.